I'm Ken Hooper from North Carolina. I build guitars. I've been building guitars, or actually instruments, for 20 years. Growing up, I've always been interested in making things with my hands. From a very early age, I began carving little figures and ducks and so on and so forth. Most of the time with a pocket knife was the tool that I used way back then. And then later on I had the opportunity to work for a good friend of mine here in the Elkin area who is a silversmith, making jewelry and saddle silver for very high-end custom saddles. And I found out that all of that experience and all that knowledge just transferred very well over into building guitars. And I like to think of guitars, like a guitar neck almost as a piece of jewelry. A piece of jewelry that somebody wears, like a bracelet or a ring, has a certain feel to it. It's an inviting feel and you enjoy touching it and enjoy putting it on. I like to think of it in the same respects with a guitar. A neck or the body, the way that you hold the guitar, it needs to have an inviting feel to it. So the jewelry making really has served me well. The first realization of someone building an instrument by hand was back in the early 90s when a friend of mine and myself made a trip to Rugby, Virginia to see Wayne Henderson. At that time, I didn't know Wayne. Wayne obviously is a legend now, but I didn't know who Wayne was at that point in time. But I can remember early on walking into his shop, his old shop, and looking around at all the sawdust and just the disarray, the chips on the floor, this, that, and the other, and seeing Wayne sitting over there building the guitar, and I was just floored by the fact that somebody could actually build a guitar of that caliber by hand. I guess I was of the assumption, like a lot of other people, that a guitar or an instrument that nice had to have been made in a factory rather than by somebody's hands. And at that point in time, I realized that I really wanted to build an instrument. There's a sense that a lot of people have in themselves that they need to make something, and that was how I got satisfaction, was making things when I was little and as I got older. And it was kind of neat to find out that that transferred over into making guitars. And as a result, the actual physical process of making guitars is something that came naturally and easily to me. What's difficult about it is achieving the knowledge. There's a great deal of knowledge out there in this day and age with the internet and all the people that are in the luthier community. And the luthier community itself is just a very giving place. Very few times do you run into people that are not just very willing to share their knowledge with you. That's actually one of the fun things about it, is that I am constantly learning. As I build guitars, I learn every day. When I get up and come to work in the shop, I can usually look forward to learning something. There's so many things about a guitar. People ask me about the details of a guitar, such as brace heights and dimensions and so on and so forth, top thicknesses and back thicknesses and finishing questions. There are so many little details of a guitar. You can sit down and write a recipe for how to build a guitar, but there's just a lot that the only way to do it, or the only way to learn, is by doing it. I can tell you to carve a 5/16 inch brace, but that may or may not be the optimum specifications for the guitar you're building. When you think about building steel string guitars today, pretty much the gold standard for those steel string guitars are the old Martin dreadnoughts of the early to mid 30s. Living where I do in northwestern North Carolina, this is bluegrass country. What's in demand around here is a dreadnought guitar. Everybody wants a big dreadnought to play at a bluegrass festival and want a guitar that can be heard and can compete with a banjo and a mandolin and just in a loud environment. The design specifications of the old pre-war Martins are tried and true. So as a general rule, I don't toy around with changing those things up very much. That's the sound and the vibe that everybody's after. Those old guitars have a distinctive sound all to themselves, and they also have a lot of age. So our challenge as guitar builders today is to try to capture that vibe and that sound with a new instrument. And really, it's kind of fun to think about what these guitars that sound so good today are going to sound like in 70 years. I spend a lot of time thinking about the old craftsmen of the 30s back in the Martin factory actually using the stuff and building guitars, and I kind of think about those situations as I'm building guitars myself, and it's kind of neat to think about that I'm really using the same tools that they were using. It's been all the years it's been since then, and we've had a lot of advancements in machinery and this, that, and the other, but really when it comes down to it, I'm still using a chisel and I'm still using hide glue, and we're carving braces the same. And those are things that you think about a lot when you're building guitars. Building guitars, you spend a lot of time by yourself, or if you're lucky like me to have a nice shop dog to kind of hang around with you. But you spend a lot of time by yourself, and it's kind of neat to be able to think back on those things and think about the parallels. One of the neat things about being in the guitar business is all the different people that you come in contact with. I talk to people on the phone a lot that have never had a custom guitar built, and it's a really big deal. And obviously it is. It's a lot of money to spend on an instrument. And I get to meet those people and talk to them, and it's fun to go through the process and to try to capture exactly what they're looking for in a custom guitar. When I talk about custom guitars with people, an analogy that I always like to use is the analogy of a hot rod. When that car is built, everything that goes in it is put in it to make the car go fast. Same with a guitar. I like to think about every piece from the very smallest top brace to the smallest back brace being a contributor to the tone of that guitar. And I want to maximize that piece. As a result, generally a custom guitar is going to be built lighter than most factory guitars. But additionally, you like to try to add something a little extra. It needs to have a feel to it. It needs to be, as I mentioned earlier, it needs to be inviting. I like to build guitars that people walk by and have the desire to pick up and play. And there are a lot of factors that go into that feeling you get from a guitar. The color, the fit and finish, the way the woods match. I concentrate and spend a lot of time actually on the fit and finish of my guitars. I want the guitars to look as good as they sound. The way that instrument feels when you pick it up in your left hand when you fret it, or in your right hand as you're picking the guitar. And most importantly, the way the guitar sounds. It needs to be really balanced. It needs to be loud enough that people can hear you when you're playing, but it needs to be tonally complete. It needs to have a nice bass, it needs to have a nice mid, and it needs to have the crisp, sparkling trebles that we all like to hear. That's the effect that I'm after, a guitar that somebody enjoys playing, and when they put it down, they're ready to go back and pick it back up and play it again. I think about a good instrument, a guitar, but an instrument, any instrument, as being an object that actually gives more than you put into it. You're sitting there playing the guitar with a pick or with your fingers, but the sounds and the response that you're getting out of that guitar is actually more than what you're putting into it. To me, that defines a very good guitar. One aspect of the custom guitar business is that there's a lot of communication that has to take place. When you're trying to fulfill a very specific customer demand and need, the only way to bring that about is by having a lot of communication. That can be emails, telephone calls, and or both, sometimes written letters. But bottom line, communication is the key. And as a result of that, at the end of the day, when that instrument is delivered and that customer is hopefully happy with the instrument that they've received, I find out that I have actually gained a very close friend. Hooper Guitars is something that's not just about Ken Hooper. It's a family affair, really. We all get involved in it. From my wife to both of my daughters, Ellie and Mary Claire, we talk about instruments, we talk about customers and what they want. We talk about upcoming shows and so on and so forth. So it's really a family affair, and I have had the opportunity in the course of building guitars and over the years to have made so many great friends all over the country. When I made the decision to go full-time building guitars, it was obviously uncharted ground for myself, and it was nerve-wracking, so to speak. Took a lot of soul searching on my part and other members of my family. Obviously, I felt for a long time that building guitars is something that I was called to do, simply because the physical part of doing it came so naturally to me. And really, when it comes down to it, I just made the decision that I didn't want to wake up one day and be older or of retirement age and look back and wish that I had at least tried to build full-time. But the support has been unbelievable, as I said, from my family, my immediate family, but also from the friends that I have made, just everybody that I've come in contact with that knows me either previously or as a result of the guitars have been nothing but positive. One of the things that I've tried to do from the very beginning since I went full-time is try to maintain a work schedule. And that's hard for a lot of people who are in business for themselves, and I can see where it would be difficult, but I've tried to maintain a regimen where I get up every day just like I'm going to work anywhere, except I come down to the shop and I go to work. One of the things I really enjoy is coming down to the shop early in the morning. Really, it's still quiet and the sun's just coming up and it's really peaceful, a lot of natural light streaming through the windows. It's fun to sit down and carve braces or some other type of hand operation that I have to do every day while the peace of the morning is still intact. That's very satisfying. When I think about Hooper guitars into the future, my goal would obviously be to continue to build the very best guitar that I can build. And I would see the guitar that I build continuing to improve as I learn more and more. Continuous improvement is something that we all strive for. And that would be what I would strive for, continuous improvement in my guitars. But at the same time, maintaining the personal relationship type business that I have with my customers now, and having my customers know that the instrument that I'm building is the very best instrument that I can build, and that I absolutely put my heart and soul into each guitar that I build. I always tell people that the most important guitar that I have on my list is the guitar that I'm currently working on. And that's really true. I think about each and every aspect of the guitar as I'm going through the process, and I try to maximize every part of it. And that involves most of the time thinking about the sound and thinking about the finished product. What is the process that I'm working on now? How is it going to affect the finished product, and how can I make it the very best that I can make it?